Hello everybody, my name is Rohit. I take physical education on behalf of Prep School by Vidhyaashram. In today's session, we will study about children and women in sports. Under this session, we will study about different motor movements, then we will study about different kind of postural deformities and what all exercises and guidelines that you can follow to again avoid or fix all those issues. And we will also see as you grow up, as a child grows up, how the improvement in mobility takes place. So let's start off with our first topic, that is motor development. Now what is motor development? Motor development refers to the development of child's bones, muscles and his or her ability to move around and manipulate a person's environment. Okay, here when we again say development, motor development means what? Motor development means development of a person's bones. We have studied about physiology, right? We have studied about anatomy and physiology in sports, if you remember. In that I told you about bones development, again joints development, muscle development, right? So development in the bones, development in the muscles and development in the ability to move or manipulate the environment around. Here when they say about manipulate a person's environment, what does they mean? They mean that when a kid gets up and tries to walk around, pick up a thing from a certain place, takes a ball, football and move around or play, all these kind of manipulation of the environment, moving of an object from one place to another place, that's called as again manipulation of environment. The ability to perform that task improves over the period of time, right? The ability to perform that task improves over the period of time. That is the again motor development in a children. So what is motor development again? Let's recap. What is motor development again? Motor development is the development of a kid's bones, muscles and the ability to manipulate the environment around that person or that child as we are talking about here. Now let's get into different types of motor development. What all are those? There are two types. We have two types of motor development. This is again what? This is again fine motor movement and then we have gross motor movement. What is it? It is gross motor development and fine motor development. When we talk about gross motor development, what is gross motor development? Gross means again macro, bigger movements. Okay, when you jump, when you walk around, when you again play certain sports, when you again take a flip or when you take a jump, when you again take a sprint, all those are gross movements. What are fine movements? Fine movements are the minute movements that we do. Like when you write, you hold a pencil, right? You hold a pencil and you hold the grip properly. The gripping of your hand, how sharply you do certain kind of complex movements, right? When you're an artist, of course, when you paint, right? When you draw a picture, your again ability as an artist increases if your fine motor development is improving or is getting more matured. So that is fine motor development. You can see from the picture. This kid is trying to draw, that is fine motor development. Over here you can see a kid playing, that is again major movement. Major movement is macro movement, that is gross development or gross motor development as we studied here. I hope you understood this. What is it again? What are the two different types of motor movements? First we have gross motor development. What is it? Gross motor development. What is gross motor development? The bigger movements, the macro movements. Okay, that the example I showed you here, again a kid trying to play, sprint or run or jump, that is called as gross motor development. What is second? Second we have fine motor development. Fine motor development is what? Again minute complex movements. For example, movement of your hand, holding something, the grip of it, all those things will come under again your fine motor development. Now, hoping you understood this part of the session, let's move on to the next one. What is the exercise guidelines at different stages of a child's life? Exercise guidelines at different stages of a person's life. Now, these stages we have studied earlier also. We'll go through it once more. What are the stages of a person's development or growth? First, infancy. Then you go through early childhood. After that, you move on to later childhood. Then you get into adolescence and finally you get into adulthood. Okay. Now, infancy, when a small baby is born, right? At the age of 1 to 5, again we consider it as infancy. At that stage, what all guidelines, what all kind of movements are we supposed to carry out or help the kid to carry out? We should not make the baby to walk. Again, that causes a lot of, again, feet deformities. We'll study about the deformities later, but try to understand that at the stage of infancy, what all guidelines, what all procedures of movements we should do. We should make the kid do small and minute fine movements, not the major movements. Major movements are not recommended for infancy stage. Now next is the early childhood stage. Okay, early childhood stage is when you're first standard, second standard, first to fifth standard, the primary stage of your life. Okay, when you are in the primary classes of your school, that time what all movements, what all things are again should be carried out, what all guidelines should be given. Okay, what all guidelines should be given in that time? You should be encouraging the kid to learn new things, because during early childhood the grasping power of a kid is more. Okay, the grasping power of kid, that's why you may have noticed kids who learn languages or any special skill or complex skill at the earlier part of their childhood, they retain it longer. For example, I can give you the alphabets that we studied, the tables that we studied, right? All those things we keep in our mind longer. But what you might have studied 2 years back in your, again, 9th or your 8th standard, you might not remember it much as you remember the alphabets and the things that you learned in your early childhood. So those kind of quick things and those kind of things has to be promoted in a kid more. After that, you hit a stage of later childhood. Again, the childhood of the middle secondary, when you get into 6th standard, 7th standard, that is the stage of that. In that stage, again in the later childhood, you are supposed to again have a better complex movements, right? Competition spirit, now the quality of a leadership, communication skills, all these soft skills has to be promoted more in a kid. All these soft skills has to be developed more in a kid. Again, if you talk about other qualities that are again your major movement skills, when you play in a park, when you again when you do any kind of, when you take participation in sports, when you play for your school, when you play in your school team, when you play into different sports, all those things should be again promoted at the later childhood stage. Okay, now moving on to the next stage, that is the adolescent stage. Now in between that you get you hit the teenage, right? When you are again 13 years old, you start your teenage life. From 13 to again 19, you have a period of teenage. We have not mentioned it here, but you know that that stage also has a lot of again changes that takes place mentally, physically, and it again changes a lot of things in life, right? Again, your complex skills, your fine movements, your motor, your gross movements, everything becomes more mature, right? You play better sports, you talk more maturely, and all these things comes to place. After that, we have adolescent stage. In the adolescent stage, you become more again intellectually mature, means your talks will be more mature. Again, your body movements has to be improved. In this stage, people generally develop the wrong kind of lifestyle, or these days we call it as passive lifestyle, that should be avoided. That's one of the major guidelines that should be practiced during your adolescent period. That is what? Again, passive lifestyle, proper food habits. Okay, that also is one bad thing that keeps on taking over people. That is what? Again, bad food habits. That has to be avoided again during your adolescent period. For development of your body, I have said this before also. For development of your body, not only physical efforts, but whatever you eat, what time you sleep, what time you work, how much, what kind of lifestyle you live totally matters. Motor development doesn't only come by practice or any kind of skill you do. You paint, you sing, you dance, you do acrobatics, anything you do, for that physical effort and practice is required. But at the same time, your mental fitness, your physical fitness, your psychological fitness, your physiological fitness, and again your food habits are equally important. So all those things get again messed up, or it goes ups and downs during this period of time. So that is again totally restricted, or is suggested not to practice it. Always practice to have proper food, nutritious food, avoid having any kind of junk foods, so that will again help you to revitalize or again promote your motor development in the stage of adolescence. Then you hit the stage of again adulthood. In this particular stage, again you are considered a fully matured mentally, psychologically, physiologically and anatomically person. In this stage, your motor development is considered to be complete, but again during this stage, if your practices are not up to mark, your lifestyle is not up to mark, you may face a lot of issues which can be avoided by many of the tricks and many of the tips that I gave you during the yoga session also and during many other session also. Now let's move forward with our third topic, that is the deformity, different kind of deformity that we will study about. What are the different deformities that we studied? I have taught this earlier also during the anatomy and physiology parts of sports. Let's go back to it again. What is it? We have different kind of common postural deformities. What is postural deformities? What is postural deformities? What is posture? Posture is any pose you make when you stand or when you sleep and when you sit, right? If the posture is wrong or unnatural, that is a deformity. If you are intentionally doing, that's a different case. But normally when you stand or walk, your posture of walking, your posture of movement is wrong, even without your intention. Naturally, if it is coming like to you, then that is a deformity. Okay, so there are many kind of deformities. You have vertebral deformities, you have again feet deformities, you have again knee deformity, you have different kind of deformities. Some of those deformities are, first we have knock knee, then we have flat foot, then we have round shoulders, lordosis, kyphosis, bow legs and scoliosis. We have studied this before also, but this may serve again as a revision for you. For those who are watching this for the first time, for them this will be a new knowledge to again acquire. What is knock knee? Knock knee is again when you walk or when you stand, both of your knees are hitting each other or it is colliding with each other. That's the situation of knock knee, right? When your knee section of your leg or the leg part is inward bent, it causes that kind of a problem. So that kind of deformity is called as knock knee. Second is flat foot. Flat foot is again flat foot is generally when your feet is again very flat. If you have noticed that when you stand proper on your ground, right? When you stand proper on your ground, if this is your feet, there is a small curvature in your feet. There is a small gap in your feet, right? That is normal. But if that gap is not there, if your print of your feet is fully flat, then that means you have a problem of flat foot. So that issue should not happen. And when does that situation happens? Sometimes genetically it comes. Otherwise, 80% of the time this happens when parents force a child to walk before it's the proper time for that kid to walk. So that's why you should not make a kid walk at an early stage before than he is supposed to walk. Then what will happen is again the child will face again problem like flat foot. Got it? Now flat foot, I hope you understood flat foot. Now what is again round shoulder? What is again next? Round shoulders. Round shoulders is when your shoulder is again bent forward. You might have noticed that many people have a little bent on their shoulder, right? When they walk or when they sit. That kind of shoulder bend is called as round shoulder. So practically how does it look? Suppose if I am standing facing this side, right? Suppose if I am standing this side, this is a proper form again posture. If I have round shoulders, my posture will be like this. So basically my shoulder is bent forward. So that causes that round kind of a posture, and that is again a postural deformity called as round shoulders. Got it? Now let's move forward with our next one, that is lordosis. What is it? Lordosis, kyphosis and scoliosis. These three particular things, kyphosis, lordosis and again scoliosis, these three deformity is again vertebral deformity. What is vertebral deformity? The deformity that takes place in your vertebra. Okay, your vertebra, again any kind of deformity, the curvature you can see from the image over here. Can you see over here in the image, this person's back or the vertebra is again curved. Over here you can see the vertebra of this person is curved like this. In the next it is innerward from the if you see the lower vertebral column, lower vertebral region, it is curved inwards. Again, if you see over here, this bend is there. Okay, so these kind of, again, this person is having a proper posture. Over here also you can see the person's upper torso. Upper torso is what? This is the upper torso and this is the lower torso. Upper torso is bent backwards. Okay, so that also is kind of a curvature or spinal deformity. So lordosis, kyphosis and scoliosis is that. Now what is bow legs? You can learn it like that. I'll give you a proper tip how to learn this. Bow legs is like opposite of, again, knock knees. Knock knees is when your knee part is bent inwards. So when you walk, what happens? The knees collide with each other, right? So bow legs is what? The knee is outward. So again your leg will be in outwards bend shape. Why it is called as bow leg? Have you seen bow and arrow? Bow and arrow we use, right? We use bow and arrow. So what is the shape of a bow? A bow is in this shape, right? And then you will have a string and then you will have an arrow attached to that, right? That is how bow is made. So bow leg is again what? Why is it called as bow leg? Because the knee part of the leg is again bent outwards, so it forms again a shape of bow. That's why it is called as bow legs. The invert of that, the inverted shape of that is again, what is it? The inverted shape of that is again called as, again we have knock knees. So I hope you understood this section of the series. Okay, what is it again? Knock knees, flat foot, round shoulders, lordosis, kyphosis, bow legs and scoliosis. So these all are the postural deformity that possibly could take place if you don't have a proper lifestyle or if you don't properly practice a good discipline of proper lifestyle. Okay, so like I again said, let's recap again. Knock knee is what? Knock knee is when your knee is inwardly bent. Again, flat foot is when, like I said, when you have a normal, when you stand normally on the ground bare feet, you will have a small little gap between again your ankle and your again fingers there, and that gap is natural. If you don't have that, when you keep your feet flat on the ground, if the print of that feet is fully flat, basically if you could see proper print of your feet, that is again flat foot. You're not supposed to have that. You're supposed to have a little gap, right? So if that gap is there, then that is natural. So that is called as again flat foot. Next you have round shoulders. Like I said, when the shoulder is bent forward and your body from the side seems like that area is rounded up, that's called as round shoulders. Then you have lordosis. Again you can see lordosis condition. Then you have kyphosis, you can see over here. And then again you have scoliosis, you can see over here. This is again called as scoliosis. So this topic we have studied this many times in different instances and different contexts in different chapters. Even in your last year we have studied this. Now this may serve as a revision if you have seen my older classes, or if you are new here, if you are seeing this for the first time, this is a new knowledge for you. I hope you understood. Now let's move on to the next topic of this session. Okay, the next topic of your session is again corrective measure for postural deformities. What all corrective measures you can follow to fix any kind of postural deformities that you have? What are the postural deformities? We studied, right? What are the postural deformities? I'll give you a second. What is the postural deformities? What all postural deformities we just studied in the last slide? What all are those? Knock knees, flat foot, right? Round shoulders, scoliosis, lordosis, kyphosis, bow legs, right? All these things are the postural deformities. Now, we discussed about the postural deformities. Now, we didn't discuss about the solution for that. Okay, fine. Somebody is having this kind of a particular postural deformities. How that person could avoid this from happening, or if you already have that, how to again fix it. Now, I'll tell you all that combined now. Okay, what all things are there? First, practice stretches and bends opposite to the direction of postural defect. For example, if your shoulder is bent front, round shoulders case, we studied about this. If the shoulder is bent front, try doing exercises where you again stretch your back straight when you keep your shoulders straight. Now, it will pain in the initial stage. Initial stages it will pain because your body is used to this curvature. Now suddenly when you're asking your body to keep the shoulders like this and walk, it will pain. But practicing this every day for 10 minutes or holding like this for 5 minutes, ideally while sitting somewhere comfortably or while standing, it will help you to again make your body curvature or bone curvature straighten over the period of time. So that's the first thing. Whichever side, whichever area or whichever part of your body has that kind of deformity, opposite to that kind of curvature, if you keep your body, that will help you to fix it. Now, one way is to just keep your body opposite to that curvature. Other way is practicing of yoga. What is the second way? Second way is practicing of yoga. Again, in the yoga and lifestyle chapter, I have taught you different kind of yogasana for different kind of diseases and different kind of situations. And I have also told you about different kind of yogasanas for deformities. Now, so this will help you with that. Practicing of yoga will help you with all the deformities that we studied in the last slide. Okay? Moving on to next, avoid bad postural habits. Now, this is the one thing that everybody does, right? When you sleep on the bed and watch some videos on again your phone or your tablet or computer, you lean towards your wall and you lift your head towards the wall and try to lean and watch. Due to that, what happens? Next day when you wake up after sleeping, you get a neck pain, you get a back pain. That is because that's a wrong postural habit. You should not practice that. Or when people sit on sofa, right? They put both the legs on the hand of a sofa and sit inverted, whereas the sofa or any couch is made to sit straight, right? So sleeping on a wrong place, in a wrong situation or a wrong posture is again very bad for your postural deformities. That will cause you postural deformities. And one more thing related to that is avoid using multiple pillows. This is also one other problem many people do, right? They keep 2 pillows, 3 pillows so that their head gets more height. But you don't understand that. Your pillow size should be the difference between your back and your head. Do you not get it, right? I'll explain you properly. When you sleep down without the pillow, you may notice that your head goes a little back. Because if pillow is not there, if this is your back, if this is my back, right? The level of my back is this. This is the level of my back. And the level of my head is this. So here is my head and my back level is this. So there is a space between both of that, right? That space I need to cover. So that thickness of pillow you should use to again have a proper rest. If you double the size of the pillow, what will happen? Your neck will come forward while you sleep, and for the time being, for 5 to 10 minutes or maybe for half an hour, you feel better. But over the period of time, that will again itself create a postural deformity to you. So later, your short time benefit or short time comfort will cause you a long time problem. So now you decide whether you want a short term comfort or long time happiness. Based on that you can decide. But I would recommend not to use multiple pillows, or if you use pillows also, try not to use hard cushioned pillows, rather use soft cushioned pillows, and it should be the thickness of your difference between the head and your back. That way it will help you to have a proper and a very good sleep. Got it? Now next is don't wear improper footwears, right? People try to adjust by using small size footwears, or they if they get a large size footwear they put on that, or any footwear that is not comfortable to you, even if they don't put the full effort to find the right footwear for them, and they just get adjusted to whatever they get, right? They are like, okay, fine, I will just manage with this. Okay, fine, I will manage with this footwear. That should not be there. The footwear that we choose should be proper. It should not create any kind of discomfort to you. Now, starting you may think, oh, it is a discomfort, right? Later I will get used to that. Later you will get used to that because the bone structure of your feet will get used to that particular footwear and it will adapt to the shape of that. But in the long term, again, that curvature again will create a problem to you. So please don't do that. Please don't be lazy about choosing the right footwear for you. Search a lot, and so that you don't get any kind of feet related deformities. Okay, now moving on to next one, we have avoid wearing tight dresses. Now this is very important. Now it may be a part of the fashion. People put on tight dresses and it becomes a very problematic situation for your circular system. The blood passing, right? The circulation of your blood becomes very tough because of that. and circulation of blood doesn't happen properly if you put on the tight clothes. Using of proper size of clothes will help you with proper physiological part of your health. Physiological part is what? Again, I taught you, right? Physiological part is the functioning of different organ systems in your body. So if you put a very tight cloth, what will happen? The blood circulation will stop. Have you ever tried putting a rubber band on your hand? Or have you ever tried putting a tight band on your head? What happens? Or if you put a wristwatch, when you put a watch, right, if you tighten it too much and if you leave it for 2 days, remove the wristwatch, you will see a mark there. That part of your hand, the blood passing will stop there and your hand will cause a little bit of numbness, right? That is the reason why it's like that, because the blood supply did not pass properly to the muscles of your hand. Because of that, again, the hand is not feeling proper or it is feeling numb. To avoid those kind of situations, you are not supposed to put on any kind of tight dresses, okay? Use always the comfortable regular size dresses to avoid any kind of postural deformities or any kind of discomfort. Moving on to next, we have don't carry overweighted bags, right? Again, this problem is faced by a lot of kids in the school, right? People don't prepare their bags. One day before, when you go to school, you have to see the timetable, check your timetable, see different kind of subjects. Tomorrow, if it is a Monday, if it is a Tuesday, what all subjects are there? According to that subject, you are supposed to prepare your bag or take your textbooks. Some people, some students, because of laziness, what they do, they just take every subject and put them in the bag, and the bag becomes very heavy, and then they carry that bag and it becomes a burden, okay? Because that weight creates a bend on your shoulders. When you carry a bag, because of the weight you bend and you walk like this and come back like this, and your body gets used to that bend. So even when you remove your bag, that bend still remains. Even though the bag is gone, that bend in your body still remains, and that itself causes you postural deformity. So all these guidelines, if you follow properly, you can avoid any kind of problems that you have, any kind of postural deformities that you get, you can avoid if you practice all these guidelines properly. So I hope you guys understood very well about today's session and what all things we studied. Just recap once more. We studied about motor movements, that is again fine motor movement, gross motor movements. We studied about postural deformities. We studied about different stages of life. We studied about different things or different guidelines that you could follow to avoid postural deformities. Having said all that, hoping you understood all the topic, this is me Rohit once again signing out. Until next time, goodbye.